Welcome back to Turn Down for What, your source for EV news and updates. Like and subscribe for more content like this episode. Let's dive on in. Welcome back to Turn Down for What. We have another good episode for you today. We have the wonderful privilege of having some special guests on and wanted to let Chris, since you kind of set up the conversation, I'll let you do the formal introduction and we can kind of get the conversation started.
Yeah, awesome. I think this is the first time we've had two guests on at the same time, isn't it?
Probably, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a crowd now.
Yes, it is. I thought this was going to be a really cool thing. I've been wanting to put this together for a while, and I thought it was just a great juxtaposition here of we've got Winston, who is of a generation that kind of grew up with Tesla, and then we've got Martin is a generation that's been doing Fords for what, 3 decades. Martin, is that right?
Yeah, almost 30 years.
Yeah, and I just thought, what a great conversation, because at the end of the day, I really think that this is a great example of the future, where both of these guys are doing work on vehicles. In Winston's case, he's rebuilt Teslas, and in Martin's case, although he's done a lot of ICE vehicles too, he's done two Lightnings already, and is getting ready to start a third. So I just thought this was a great conversation to have, compare how you guys go about it, how you learned it, where do you get your parts, where do you get your technical information. I know Tesla, for example, is not one to share very well with the community, and I think, Winston, you can maybe talk about how, I believe, like, you don't have supercharger access. There's certain things that they don't allow, and at the same time, ironically, Martin, your truck that you rebuild, I believe, will have supercharger access with an adapter. So it's a strange world we're in as we learn this transition. And so I just thought it would be a great episode to kind of talk about that and share the background. So I think with that said, like, let's kick it off a bit with Winston and kind of tell us, I think I started following you when you were 18, kind of where you at, like, talk to us, tell us about your channel, what you've been doing, and then we'll kind of pivot to Martin, and then we'll just have a great conversation.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah. So it all started, let me think here, it might have been almost a year or two ago. My parents purchased a Model 3 long range all wheel drive, where I told them to purchase it. It's a great car. It's a 2018. Purchased it with about 50,000 miles. It was at auction. It was a total loss vehicle. The driver, I can't remember what happened. Oh yeah, he T-boned someone. Someone ran a stop sign. I actually found the Tesla cam footage embedded into the car's MCU. But anyway, so that happened, and then we bought it. It was like, at the time, this was, when Tesla prices for the Model 3 were just insane. That car was like almost a $50,000 car, even used. And so anyway, we got that car. It was like 15 grand or whatever. And then it was front end damage. So crash bar, radiator, AC condenser, all that. And, the assembly of that car is just genius. Everything just bolts together so perfectly. So it ended up being around like $8,000 in just parts and paint, brought around 23,000, which was a great deal at the time. And then, Tesla cut their prices like crazy. And I think that car has about 90,000 miles on it now, running strong. And then this summer, we bought a 2018 long range rear wheel drive. My dad wanted one after driving the Model 3 so much. And I drive that one a decent amount too now. And that's been a great car. That car was significantly cheaper. It was like 13,000, way less damage than the other one. I don't even know why they totaled it, to be honest. No airbags or anything. So that one was pretty cheap. It was like 13,000, and then like 4.5 in parts and paint. And it has everything. It's got the full self-driving, has like 50,000 miles on it too. So pretty solid car.
Yeah, and with full self-driving, you can always, at some point, the way that Tesla is, they're a little bipolar when it comes to this, but at some point you'll probably be able to transition that full self-driving to another vehicle. So that's a great deal.
Yeah, for sure. And it was kind of funny because at the time, full self-driving was 15 grand.
Yeah.
And the car, altogether was like 17 and a half, 18 after registration and stuff.
Yeah, there were jokes going around when they first talked about being able to transfer full self-driving, and if it's 15 grand, but you can find a totaled one for, way less. It's a great strategy to go. And did you do ICE vehicles before you got into doing Teslas? Like, how did you just like wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to grab a 10 millimeter and see what happens?
Yeah, that's actually funny you say 10 millimeter. The Teslas are there's so many 10 millimeter bolts on the Tesla. But yeah, I have a lot of experience. When I was like, ages like 12 through even now, I still work on ICE cars a lot, just with like friends and stuff. So yeah, I worked on a lot of Volvos actually. So Volvo XC70, Volvo 850. So I have a lot of experience with those 5-cylinder turbos, and then actually a lot of experience with the 5.7-liter Triton engines from Ford with the Expedition. And then just, I've helped a lot of friends out and stuff like that. So we tackle, projects when they come about. But I have a lot of experience, I'd say. I mean, I'm not, a master mechanic in any sorts. I'm kind of self-taught, a DIYer in a sense.
Yeah.
So, I just follow the YouTube instructions. But, once you kind of get a grasp on it, you can tackle more things, like once you know how to remove the serpentine belt on a car, you're like, okay, I can do the alternator then, or the power steering pump, AC compressor, all those different things.
Yeah, I mean, maybe no master mechanic, but you're certainly gonna be a heck of a lot more involved than anything I've taken apart. I mean, I can barely do a Kia furniture, so like hats off to you for getting in there and doing it. And then on the other end of it, Martin, talk about. I know you started with ICE rebuilding F-150s and things for decades. Kind of talk about where did you get started in automotive? How did you pivot from gas to electric? Like, what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, Chris, I'll try to make this brief because this could be an hour conversation just by itself with my background and my history doing this. I started rebuilding cars officially when I was 14. I'm 44 now. My dad is a jack of all trades. I grew up around hot rods, 38 Chevy, 34 Ford, 32, all that stuff. I was rebuilding motors and putting dirt bikes back together when I was 5 and 6 years old. I mean, he taught me, I remember when I was like 5 years old, how to take a spark plug out, put it in the spark plug cleaner and clean the thing because it was always foul and plugged. So grew up in a real mechanical mindset. And then that kicked me off to a local body shop. Actually, we're rural at Kansas is where I'm at. And this local body shop, they start you out kind of in the field on the farm, hauling hay and doing cow stuff. And then if you're good and they feel like you got an aptitude, they'll roll you over to the body shop. So he's actually become my best friend. We've known each other 30 years now. It's how I do all of my trucks and everything. All my dealer licensing and stuff is all through him. But started when I was 14, bought my first builder, was a 91 Dodge diesel pickup. I was so elated to be able to build that truck. And I'm probably up over, I'm going to say 500-600 vehicles since then.
That's amazing.
A lot. We did 100 one year when I was 18 that year in the body shop, just rebuilders, not insurance work. Because
Oh, did we lose him? Kansas internet. What happened? We need to get oh no, we need Martin to reset. We'll have to get Martin back here in a second. And
Need some Starlink.
Starlink. I was just thinking that we need to send Martin a Starlink. So I think it's interesting though, those similar stories, Winston, between you and he both kind of coming up at a young age, getting your hands in there and experimenting with that. And it's also funny, you've got him in kind of that heartland of Kansas, and then you're up in that Pacific Northwest area. And it's just, it all kind of fits, right? Like if you had to stereotype the starting out with farms and diesel tractors and things like that out in the heartland of Kansas, and then of course starting with a Tesla, or I guess you did Volvos and other things as well, but that all just kind of represents where you come from. But at the end of the day, it's the same passion for automotive, for mechanics. It's the same, despite the generations between you. It's the same. It's an amazing thing to look at. So for you, with what you've done so far, where are you getting? Because we know Tesla won't let you just go and start ordering parts from Tesla, and they're not going to give you, big books full of data on how to work on it. There's YouTube videos. Like, where did you begin? Where are you finding your parts?
So that's actually interesting you say that. So there's a lot of I don't want to say misinformation about it, but you can, depending on your service center and the relationship you have with your service center, you can actually buy parts from them. So for both of the cars I rebuilt, I would go in and you use a website called EPC. It's Tesla's parts catalog. So you go in there I would just go in there with a list of all the parts I'd want, and they would just order them for me, and I would go pick them up. It was just an over-the-counter sale. And I don't know how the Tesla service centers are really interesting. They vary different service center to different service center. I think it depends on size and the volume they can handle. But I know my service center out in Liberty Lake, they were more than willing to sell me the parts that I needed. So I could get any part I want except for high voltage. So I can't get batteries or motors. I'm not sure about like high voltage cabling, like charge port inlets and stuff like that, but I'm 95% sure I can get every other part. You can order stuff down to just a screw, that's like 7 cents, or even like a 10 millimeter bolt. So it's really handy. And with their parts catalog, you can see every part available. Pretty easy to see all those parts. So you can just go in, make a list. And then as far as service manuals go, they give you a service manual that's pretty in depth, that shows you how to, remove anything from a PTC heater to a fender. So it's pretty cool, and it shows you how to even adjust gaps. So there's a lot of information out there. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to access. You do have to have a Tesla service account, not a Tesla service account, but like a Tesla service manual account, which it used to be, I think it was like $100 a year, but now it's free. So
Wow.
that's pretty cool that they opened it up. Yeah, they opened a lot up. So pretty much, all Tesla, they're fine with you rebuilding their cars. They just don't want you to supercharge them, pretty much.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I had heard, now, are you able to just go to the service center like will call and pick them up? I've heard from other people that talked about they have to be shipped and they don't give like dealer discounts. Welcome back, Martin. Good to see you.
Nice.
We got,
Sorry,
we were
guys.
talking about we need to get you some Starlink out there.
I actually have T-Mobile Wi-Fi, and I just reset it before I got on, and it was like 200 down and 8 up, so I should have been good. I'm over on my cell now, so hopefully the connection's decent.
Yeah, we got you solid now. We'll kick it back over to you in just a second. We were just kind of talking to Winston. I was surprised to hear, I had always had the impression, and I think a lot of people do as well, that you really can't get parts from Tesla, and they don't want you rebuilding their cars. And Winston was saying, no, he's able to get them right from his service center.
Oh, yeah.
And I had heard that was tough, and there was no will call, and they had to be shipped. And
No, that's Rivian that's tough.
interesting.
Yeah,
Rivian says, no, unless
it.
you're certified, you're out.
My
But
friend
then
somehow, oh, go ahead.
you did end up registering though. You did have to register. You said it was $100, and now it's free. So you do have to register yourself somehow with Tesla. Is that correct? So that you can buy?
Well, so no, actually, so everything is done through the Tesla app. So they actually open it up as a normal service ticket. So if you were to go in, for a malfunctioning headlight or something like that, and then they send you an estimate, and they have the PDF. I don't know how familiar you are with the Tesla service tab, but pretty much you approve the estimate, and it's just a list of parts and no labor. So it's almost like you're just ordering parts, and it takes about 2 weeks for the parts to arrive. I only had one little hiccup, but it was fine. Where I ordered a hood, and they were like, well, it's here in our store, but it's here, but we don't know where it is, in the parts department. So they couldn't find it. So they had to order another one and deliver it. So you do have to go pick them up in person. But
Okay.
if you are a Tesla, if you have an account with Tesla and you're a shop, you can be any shop. You could be like, a little brake shop or a little tire shop. You can open an account with them. Say you wanted to order a bunch of TPMS sensors, and I believe they'll ship them to your door. And you're also able to see prices. So I'm unable to see prices of the parts, but I just have a pretty good estimate of what a part's going to cost. So I just go in there and just say, how much is this? And then once they send over the estimate, I have them add or remove things that, I could find cheaper on eBay.
So you're buying the salvaged car, you add it to your Tesla app, just like it's one that you've purchased. Now it's in your name. Now you can open a service ticket on it, and you can get those parts estimates, go pick them up, and then just go to it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a pretty seamless process. And it's almost like if you were just doing a normal repair, or you're having Tesla do a repair. I mean, it just opens up in the service tab, and they say, come back in 2 weeks or whatever. And they say, that you can pick them up anytime. It's not like you have a set date. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Martin, let's kind of kick back over to you again. You were just telling us about, like starting out really doing farm work, and then kind of pivoting up from there. Like continue from where we left off.
Yeah, sure. So I think I don't know where you guys lost me, but so in this body shop where I was at, they kind of take you from the field to the shop and put you in there. And before you know it, I bought my first builder, and it just kind of grew from there. We over the years, I've done 500 or 600 cars, and it's just one of those situations where I've never really bought off of a car lot. It's interesting. I have a point on that. We just bought a Model 3 from my daughter last week from a car lot, but I'll get to that here in a minute. But I built like 5 or 6 of the old body style Lightning. So the 93, 4, and 5. I've had 3 or 4 or 5 of the 99 to 04 Lightnings, built all of those. And when this one came out, I knew at first it kind of, I don't know how you guys are. If any of you guys are old school Lightning guys from back in the day, Yeah, to be honest, it kind of irritated me when I saw this was going to be an electric truck. You know,
Right.
I was of that mindset, and they're ruining I wanted a supercharged, Voodoo motor. And then once I went and drove one, once I kind of started embracing it, boy, did I come 180 full circle.
Yeah,
You know?
Ford loves to throw extra doors on things, I think, to
Oh, yeah.
irritate gas, whether it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
Mach-E, like, hey, let's make a 4-door Mustang. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Let's make a
And all my
super
buddies are like, that's not a Mustang.
Right.
That should be something else. But yeah, so yeah, this new truck, I had an experience with a 4-door sports truck back in 2011. I bought a like 1,100 mile from an individual SRT 10 Ram, and I bought the 4-door version, that Viper truck. And I tell you, I had a family at the time. Having 4 doors and having all kinds of power, it's nothing compared to the Lightning. Even as great as that Viper truck was, that sold me on having a 4-door sports truck right there. And
Does
so
the
I kind of been waiting all these years. My dad had a Harley, which was the 4-door version of the Lightning. They're a
Yeah.
cool
Yep.
truck. Again, decent power. And back in the time, that was fast, but nothing like we are
Very
now.
fast. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that SVT, that's one thing I don't like. This did not have any SVT badges on it either.
Nothing.
It's
kills
not a
me.
special vehicle division. It's not anything that I kind of felt like for this, I would like to have seen it to have something special to it. Kind of like when you see a Raptor, that's a special truck. For this, it actually goes under the radar because it looks just like every other truck. And honestly, the nose reminds me of the first generation of Viper or first generation of the Raptor, where it had that really curved nose and everything.
Yep.
So I kind of wished it had a few more bells and whistles. I was a huge SVT fan for that Lightning you're talking about. I was in high school in '99, graduated. I was driving for Ford at the time. We were doing all sorts of different racing, and I never did get that Lightning, but because my dad was always about, it's not 4-wheel drive, so we can't use it as a work truck, so you don't need it. So I never did. And plus, it's way too expensive for us to use as a work truck. But love those trucks. Love the square body Lightning. And the prices on those trucks keep growing. I saw a square body the turquoise blue Lightning the other day. It sold for, I think, $24,000 for that square body Ford. Blew me away that was the cost, but you're not finding them these days. And even the 99 Lightning 2000, 2001, those trucks are going into the 20s and 30s now. So it's amazing how well they've held their value.
Yeah, the body lines on the electric are pretty bland and just kind of almost targeted to fleet and families more than the kind of the way that the SVT series was.
Yeah.
It would be great. It'd be great to
I
have.
think that's intentional, Chris. I think they did that on purpose. And the reason I say that is you're going to have a limited buyer pool for the number of people. And we can get into this conversation, but a limited buyer pool of people who want an F-150 that's electric. And you just get this negativity. And Winston can speak this. People who hate Teslas, hate electric, they don't want anything to do with this. This is wrong. We're all approaching this wrong. So I think they're trying to appeal to the guys like you and everybody else who would buy one, but they're not trying to look for some special vehicle team. And I agree with Jesse. I wish it would have been SVT all the way, but I think they did it strategically so that this would appeal to more of a mass market.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny part about it, even like somebody like you, the first truck you rebuilt was a 92. Was it a 92 Ram diesel?
Yeah, Dodge 2500 diesel.
So that has was that the 12 valve?
Yep, 12 valve.
So you take a 12 valve, which in my opinion is the best bulletproof, as long as you get the death nail out of the front of it and you get that pin out and hammer that pin in it.
And the fifth
that is
coming off.
Got to get the gear out. Yep. But if I had to build an apocalypse motor, that would be what I would have in my vehicle for an apocalypse. And, and here you are that's converted over to the electric side as well. I come from an industry before I built data centers. I, ran dump trucks, bulldozers, things of that nature. And the day that this truck was released, I had my order in within about 2 minutes of when the end of the presentation was. And Josh was the same thing. That's how he and I met, was because of this. So it's funny how you come from that end of the industry. And I wouldn't trade this truck for anything. I'm at 40,300 miles now. And there isn't a truck out there that in my application I could buy that is better for what I do in the way I use it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Jesse. I come from that same world. My background a little bit was I actually started my own business right out of college. We started our own company. We built hydraulic tree shears that fits on bobcats and skid loaders and stuff. So we
Yep.
built those for 17 years. I closed that in 2018 and went to work for John Deere. So I'm an engineer for John Deere now. So I'm just taking a paycheck and working for them. But
all of my equipment was John Deere equipment. We were probably
Yeah.
the only people that didn't have Caterpillar. We had 650Js and 310SGs, you name it. That's what we had. And that's a interesting thing to go back with Winstonstead, you know, to have Tesla give you the drawings and everything where you can go off and buy the individual screws and everything. When he was talking about that, it reminded me of the website jdparts.com, which
Yep.
is for John Deere. You can have all the manuals, you got all the pictures, you got all the parts. So he had the ability to do that. What about you? How big of a headache has it been trying to build an F-150
Well,
Lightning since there is nothing out there for it?
you know, not bad. Used parts are kind of non-existent. There's been a few. Say when I bought my first truck, so I have a 22 Lightning that I bought off Copart in about, I think it was February or March of last year. I kind of
Wow,
stepped out there.
okay.
My mentor told me, "Don't do this." He said, "We don't know if we can sell it. We don't know if we can get parts." He said, "You're crazy." And I said, "I'm doing it." I went and drove one mistakenly on my anniversary in February. And I knew right then I was hooked. I had to have this truck. I'm like you, Jesse. I've had Super Duties, all shapes and sizes, half tons. I've had every truck you can imagine. None of them compare to this Lightning. Not even close.
Exactly.
Now, if you're towing 10,000 plus and you're towing over the road, yeah, I'll take my 6.7 all day. But
I'm
if
not going to
10,000
buy a
and
darn
down,
twin turbo small engine pick F-150 to do that either. So it's
You're
a
gonna be
specialized
Super Duty.
vehicle that you
You're
don't
gonna
have.
big,
Mhm.
yeah,
Right,
you're gonna get a
right.
bigger truck.
yeah, and so even for me, I just finished a 2018 F-150. We still build other trucks. I'm still building ICE vehicles. I had to put cam phasers in a 2018 F-150 EcoBoost this weekend. It made me sick because there's none of this with the Lightning. You don't have any of that crap to
Yep.
deal with.
Yeah, and the Martin mentioned Copart and Winston. I think I've seen you post about that before. Is that where you're getting your salvaged vehicles, or how are you getting yours to begin with?
Yeah, I use Copart a decent amount. I prefer. Well, the thing is, it comes down to fees and stuff. So insurance
Yep.
auto auctions is great because
Yep.
it's just all insurance cars. So you don't really deal with the hassle of you could have a Model 3. Like there could be a Model 3 at Copart or mainly Model S. So you can find a Model S at Copart. It's a 2013. You're like, well, there's just some slight damage. You get it and there's no battery in it because someone bought it. I'm pretty sure anyone can sell at Copart and then they just took the battery out. But at IAA, usually, you're dealing with Geico who's selling cars. So I got the first car was from IAA. And the fees are just ridiculous. I think I paid like $2,000 in fees or something like that. And then Copart was a bit less. I'd have to look at my invoice, but I think I got Copart. Copart was the second car, like $1,000, I think. So it really comes down to, and insurance companies do sell at Copart. So it comes down to if it's an insurance company or not. I don't know. Martin, you probably got your car through an insurance company, right?
Well, I mean, I built about hundreds of cars from Copart and IAA. We do business with both. And it really does come down to lately. Copart IAA was recently bought out by Ritchie Brothers, so their whole website and everything changed how they do business. So I really am starting to like IAA more, but Copart is where I do most of my business because I just see more Lightnings on there. And really, it just depends on where they're at. We're trying not to buy trucks that are all the way across the country. My 22 Lightning came from Pennsylvania. The 23 came out of Houston that we're building right now. We're just finishing up on the channel. But yes, you're right. That it is down to fees now. If you have a dealer license and you sign up for the unlimited buying power, those fees come down from like 15% down to like 6%. So it gets really affordable if you sign up and you're doing any volume, as like anything. With volume helps all pricing. So
you guys are going
Yeah,
to Copart or the insurance auctions, and then you get the vehicle and you're getting the parts through Tesla or through the dealer for Ford. What's the market? When my first car was a 70 Dodge Charger, and we rebuilt that. We rebuilt that thing. It had a 440 in it, and we rebuilt that thing from top to bottom. And the parts, we got a lot of them at like where they would have an auto wrecker, and you would go in and just have rows of parts, or you would have a pick apart and you could take the part yourself. And I see all the time like rows of Teslas in junkyards. And I don't ever hear about that. I don't hear about people going to pick
Yeah,
up
there
parts
is.
and okay.
There
So
is,
that
Chris.
yeah.
The biggest thing that you get into with some of the newer stuff is finding the newer parts. So, like my year ago, there was no used parts for Lightnings to be had. Now there's quite a few. I'm getting
Okay.
stuff on eBay, a few places online that I've gotten to know. Some of those LKQ is starting to carry. They're a big salvage warehouse. The market has changed a lot in the last 2 years for wrecked and rebuilt. So I use car-part.com almost exclusively when I'm looking for used parts because you can find anything on there. But in the last couple of years, all of the major sites like LKQ, Midway, all the big salvage yards are connected to that. So you can find your parts through there. But things have gotten so expensive, used like they are new, that it's almost worth just buying new parts. So like I bought just for example, this 18 F-150 I just built, I bought all the parts through Midway. I paid more for them because they were painted white than I would have if I just bought brand new parts from Ford. Well, I got them here. They were all dented. I actually drove to Kansas City to pick them up. They were all dented. So I set all those parts aside, figure I'll just use them on the next one, and bought all new parts for this truck. So I use there's a site called Repair Link, and it actually links to all auto manufacturers, all the ones in Tulsa that we have. So I'm close to Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's my big city. And I just get on there, like you were talking about with Tesla. You can look up every part. I can have them looked up and priced in 15 minutes. Punch in a VIN number. It shows you your exact model, so I don't have to worry that the parts are right.
That's awesome.
I have an account set up down there with the United Ford warehouse, so it's easy for me to get parts and I can get them at list. In fact, Chris, you may have seen me on the Facebook pages helping some of these guys that are building trucks. They don't know how to get this stuff, and I can look it up quickly. So I figured if I'm going to pay it forward and help some of these guys get their trucks fixed, if they have a minor fender bender and they don't want to spend, you dent the right front of your truck, the bumper on a Lightning cost is $4,000.
Yeah, and I see tail lights. People talk about
Tail
tail
lights.
lights.
They're
I see that a
$1,585.
lot.
I just bought one last week.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing something a little different. I'm doing eBay stuff on it. I got a tail light on there for $300. The outer housing was disconnected from the inner housing that needed re-glued. So I'm not scared to jump in and crack a headlight open or a tail light open and re-glue and re-plastic weld things back together. As long as it's quality when you're done. That's key for me. This rebuilder market, Winston, and you'll attest to this or experience it as you go forward. This rebuilder market gets a horrendous name for people shortchanging the build, not doing things correctly, bondoing stuff up, going to Mako type paint jobs. It makes it hard for us guys who are really going above and beyond and doing everything towards better than where Ford built it, and it makes it hard. And so even when I sell them, Winston, you mentioned something about what you had in yours. When I bought my first Lightning, you couldn't touch a Lightning under $95,000 for a Lariat.
Sure.
Now you can get one for like 62, 64, brand new with all the rebates.
Yep.
I paid $42,000 for my 22, and then I had 20 grand fixing it. I'm in that truck at $62,000. A year later, I'd have been better off just waiting and buying one off the lot. But it got me to where I am, so I don't regret that decision. My second one, I got like 20 grand in. And so I got about in the buy from Copart. And so I'm about 40 grand deep in it. It's about what it's worth. I could probably sell that truck for 35 to 40 with a rebuilt title. The scary thing for us, and Winston can attest to this too, is if you're going to build these to sell, you have to know your market. And if your market is I'm selling number one, I call it the trifecta, an F-150 that's electric, and then it's a salvage title, which comes along with no warranty.
Yeah.
Who wants that? It makes it tough. Now, we've been building trucks, F-150s and diesels for 30 years. I never have a problem selling. But this is a different market. It's a new market. They have to be cheap enough. So, like Chris, you have your Lariat standard range right now. If I told you, hey, I can get you, it's no warranty, but I can get you a Lariat extended range, full loaded for 30 grand.
That'd be great.
You'd probably be thinking about it, but at 60 grand, no, I'll go buy one off the lot. So
yeah, because they're going for 68 with incentives, cheaper, like full all loaded out, extended range, sunroof, Blue Cruise, all the stuff I don't have and paid the same price for.
Yeah,
it's and the same thing happened with Tesla where they cut the price of the S and the X and the 3, and then Hertz dumps a bunch of Hertz Model 3s.
30,000.
And that's what I mentioned earlier. We had one of those. That's what we just bought 2 weeks ago.
You bought a Hertz one.
There's a local Chevy dealer here that bought 50 of those.
Wow.
I went up and dug through his inventory and found one for we got it for 20 grand out the door. I couldn't build one for that. That's
Right.
why I didn't build her a Model 3, because I've been watching them sell between 10 and 12,000 plus fees for like 6 months now. And she's going to commute back and forth to school. So I really wanted to have her in a Tesla where she could charge at home. And honestly, I am a Ford diehard nut. I wanted her in a Mach-E. I cannot afford to put her in a Mach-E for the same price. And
Sure.
and if I'm going to send her in that Tesla across the country, I wanted it, I hate to say it, I wanted for an 18-year-old, I wanted it to be in a Tesla technology. She can plug it in and it will charge every time, no matter where she stops. I am not going to buy a Tesla because I can handle, and I like Ford, but I can handle if the charger don't work, or if we're not going to make it, or if it's 50 kilowatts, and you don't worry about any of that with a Tesla. That's why I wanted my daughter in that. I think Ford will eventually accept that, but we're not there yet.
That brings up a good question, I think, that Chris asked earlier when it comes to the supercharging system.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the F-150 can use it. And I did hear that if you're using a Tesla and you rebuild a Tesla you have to get it either recertified or something before you can use that system. Winston, are you having problems with that?
Oh, yeah, the recertification, I haven't done it because I did the CCS retrofit for the Model 3, which I don't know if you guys know about. Where it just enables you to use Electrify America and stuff like that. But the retrofit, the inspection where they drop the battery out, inspect everything, it's like $1,200.
Yep.
You know, and it would be nice to do. It's just like right now, I'm thinking about doing it for one of our Model 3s, the rear wheel drive long range.
I wonder
yeah,
if you can use the CCS adapter because it has a chip in it.
It still knows it's a Tesla.
It knows. Yeah, I used Magic Dock to my CCS adapter to the car, and it was like immediately new. And I think it comes down to the charging communications. So Martin, have you tried supercharging on your truck with the Magic Dock connector?
Yep. I've been in Dallas a couple of times. It's worked there, and I've never had any problems with my truck charging. I mean, so my truck was hitting the left front right in that charging port. Okay. So when we first got it, it cut some wires and blew some fuses. So I went to a local like 40 miles away and tried charging the first day, and of course it wouldn't charge. And that is kind of, I thrive with something that gives me trouble and I have to figure it out. That's where I do the best. And so that night we're at 10 o'clock in Bartlesville, Oklahoma at this charger. It's not working. So I run to Walmart, I buy fuses. We're back up. We get it working that night. So it's charged. I've probably charged, Chris, you mentioned the other day on one of your channel, I was watching you charge 10 or 15 times, 20 times maybe on a supercharger. I'm probably upwards of 200 at this point. I don't know. I've been to Canada, all this towing. People talk about how bad you can't tow with a Lightning. I've been to Canada towing, Colorado towing, Florida towing, Texas towing, and I'm fixing to go on a trip to North Carolina to pick up another, and we'll talk about this more at the end of Chris, you mentioned that, pick up another wreck Lightning for a Facebook member that wrecked it, and I'm going to rebuild it for him. We're going to tow it back from North Carolina to Kansas.
Yeah,
so
that'd be awesome.
You absolutely can tow with a Lightning. It's the best towing vehicle made, period. It's just how far do you want to go and how often do you want to get out?
Yeah, absolutely. And then Winston, have you tried to go to a pick apart or pick a pull, or is there a market for that? Or are you finding the same thing and the parts are so expensive that it's better off just getting them straight from Tesla?
Well, so it's actually pretty interesting. It comes down to parts, I guess. And especially now that the market is so saturated with all these parts, you know, the Model 3 has been around for 5.5 years now. So, you know, the first one coming out in late 2017. So there's all these wrecked cars and a lot of dismantlers. So if you go on eBay and, you know, type in headlight, you're going to find dozens of them. You know, so many people have them. And so it's really saturated the market there to where you could get a good conditioned headlight, you know, for $100, when at, you know, Tesla service, a brand new one's going to be 800.
Right.
So, and it also comes down, so you got to look at both sides of it. So you could get a new part or you could get a used part for significantly cheaper. So I just replaced a PTC heater in one of our Model 3s. It went out and then created an isolation fault. So it wouldn't drive. So, you know, Tesla, I think, would charge $800 for it fully replaced. It's like $500 for the part, $300 for the labor. And so I went on eBay and I found the heater for, I think it was like $250, and it was the latest revision. So the latest part, -I or whatever. And then I installed it in an hour and a half. So it saves a lot of money there. So you really have to look at both sides. You have to look at the eBay prices and then the Tesla prices. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, eBay is cheaper. But, you know, you would rather have newer parts. Like, you don't want to buy a fender off eBay because it'll be dented up. But if you buy it from Tesla, you could get it's pre-primed and everything. You just slap it on there. It's really good condition. with eBay, you have a lot more risk with that. But then locally, all the parts are in California. California has a huge market for Tesla parts. Donut Auto Parts is a big one down in California. There's a couple others, but a lot of dismantlers there because there's so many Teslas there. You know, every other car you see is a Model 3 or a Model Y. So that's a big area. And then Washington, up where I live, you know, there's like no one. Well, I mean, you know, Seattle has a little bit, but California is key. So I bought a decent amount of parts from California. I bought a lot of airbags from California because they just have the best parts, and a lot of those people,
all the hot air.
Exactly.
And we wreck a lot of cars out here too. I'd love to see the numbers with how many Model 3s are out on the road, how many Model Ys. Like a Model 3 or a Y is wrecked every 45 seconds somewhere. Like what's the stat on that? You know, it's got to be out there.
I mean,
well,
just
what I can't wait
parts.
is the fact that Martin and Winston, I definitely see a Cybertruck combo between you two. The first one that's wrecked, both of you need to get together and build it.
I already saw one on Facebook. I was going to message the guy and ask him what he wanted for it, but I thought, you can't get parts yet. Just wait.
Yeah. There was that one that had the whole front end, I think, from the Beverly Hills Hotel.
That's the one. That's the one. I wanted that truck.
That's going to sell somewhere, some insurance company. Yeah. I mean, it just, you know, I see these people that are lucky enough to get a Cybertruck and then they shoot it or they run it into a hotel and they do these silly things with it. And I get they're getting YouTube clips or whatever. I'm just, it almost offends me. Like, you know, the amount of people that are just waiting to truly cherish this truck and you're out there shooting it up and
being whistling diesel, trying to just destroy stuff.
Yes, I was about to say that about that square body Ford he destroyed, and I'm watching him destroy it, and it just hurt my soul. But
killed me.
You know, but again, he makes his money off of it. So
yeah. I'd much rather see you guys rebuilding something than seeing somebody take a perfectly good one and just breaks my heart to see it.
As far as the Cybertruck goes, that's, you know, you're not going to be able to find parts for it right now. I'm pretty sure Tesla would sell you parts though. I'm not 100% sure. You have to check with your service center.
Right.
I just don't know yet if you're going to be able to get parts because there's such a backlog. You know, I just bought a bed for the Ford Lightning, and the Lightning bed is Ford Lightning only. You cannot buy. It's not an F-150 bed. The taillights are different. And I waited 2 months on that bed, and Ford is well into production, way more than Tesla is. And when and when I got it, it was different. You know, like, I don't know if you know, the 22s don't have a Ford emblem on the front of the bed. The 23s do in the front of the bed. What? I got this bed in, it doesn't have the Ford emblem. I honestly think I got a 22 bed for my 23, which I don't care. But, you know, waiting 2 months on a new bed, that tells me with the Cybertruck, I don't know. And of course, it doesn't have a bed, be it a unibody structure. You may wait a year because they're trying to build trucks for $100,000 new purchases, not for these guys building this first wrecked one out there. So I didn't go there. I don't want to get into that yet, but there will be a Cybertruck on my channel at some point.
Yes.
Well, and the rebuildability, the ability to rebuild the panels by just unbolting the panels and then bolting other panels back on. Why don't people do that more often? You know, I mean, that would, I guess, because it would allow people to fix it themselves, and they don't want the ability for people to fix it themselves. Well, but I would love to see that adapted over to other vehicles.
Yeah, we have a real problem right now with the cost of these vehicles. You saw Hertz exiting this. Most of this was repair cost. We have a real problem with anything costing so much money. Okay, for instance, this truck that I'm going to go build for this guy up back east, okay, he hit it in the right door, down the bedside, broke the rear A-arm, probably needs a bed, we'll see. I told him, I'll build the truck for 25 grand, and I think I'm making a killing on it at that. But Ford told him 50,000, and it's totaled, we don't want to work on it.
Right. And
so he feels like he's getting it for half price. I think I'm going to have between 5,000 and 7,000 in just the parts, but we'll see when I get there. But that $50,000 bill leads us to, okay, now the insurance rates are going up. Everything is increasing to the point where something's got to give. I feel like this auto market, this insurance auto market is headed towards a bubble like we did back in 2007 with the housing market. We're not going to be in the same market in 3 to 4 years from now that we are now. We can't. When you get a fender bender and it's $15,000, there's minimums on insurance in state minimums that don't even cover a Lightning being wrecked because of the cost it takes to repair it. So make sure you got good insurance of yourself, because the other guy, just because he has insurance doesn't mean it's going to fix your truck.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and then the scary part is, what if you start having much cheaper vehicles? Everybody's talking about BYD. And
Yep.
if you start importing these cars that are in the 15,000, let's say you do double or raise the tariff to where it's a $25,000 or $30,000 car to compete. If the parts are still that much cheaper because of the way that's being manufactured, you're still going to be able to build it. Even with the tariffs, it's still going to be a cheaper vehicle to build.
That's right.
So, or repair, and all these insurance costs are going to be lower. So I think it's, I'm kind of worried about that aspect as well. Although, in a caveat, I would love to try out a BYD right now anyway, because I want to see what a $15,000 EV looks like
Dolphin.
and how it drives and how it compares.
That's
Yeah,
called the
that's
Chevy
new.
Bolt.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some
You'll-
good deals
No.
You'll
out
have to take
there.
yeah, you'll have to take a trip to Mexico. They're going to be building these things in Mexico, so you
Yeah.
can take a trip down there, and it's the Dolphin. I think is the really cheap one, and they God help us if they get into the U.S. and we don't have a much more robust auto market waiting for them, because Tesla is it. Hopefully Rivian is around the corner, but the others, they are not making money doing these, and you really need that kind of Tesla volume of the millions of 3s and Ys. And even now, I'm surprised,
Yep.
Winston, that there's not more parts out there, considering the number, of wrecked vehicles that I know. Obviously disproportionately in California. I can walk out my door right now. I look left, I look right. I promise you, I'm going to see a Tesla, and
Yep.
it's so we see a lot of them, and
We
I
have
think-
3 of them at our plant in Deer here in Coffeyville, Kansas.
yeah, I mean, they're
I'm sitting in line right now in Tennessee to wait on my son. I have a Model Y, 2 cars down on this side, and a Model 3, 3 cars on that
Yeah.
side, and a Model S just passed me. So,
Right.
And you're
even
the
here in
coolest
East
one, the
Tennessee,
Lightning.
we got a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
we need this though. We need these hundreds of thousands and millions of these cars out there, so that when China eventually lands, that we're at least competitive. That's
Yeah.
all I want.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just wish, Chris, that we were not forcing this with subsidies and forcing people to want to do this. I wish that we could just make an electric car that was because it's actually truly a better car,
on its
and
own
people
merit.
would choose it rather than try to. I think most of my friends hate it because the government, they call it, oh, you're
Yes.
driving a Biden-mobile. And I'm
Yes.
like, Ford's not doing that, but I understand why people say that, because they are pushing this 2030 mandate. I think that needs to go away. Just make a better car and people will buy it.
Yeah.
When you drive a
Free
Lightning,
market.
you buy it because it's great, not because of some saving the planet or Biden agenda or whatever. I bought it because it was fast. That was the reason I bought
Yeah.
one.
And
Yeah,
then you can really get the hot rod side of this. There's a company that you can buy a stamped 66 fastback Mustang chassis and body. Ford will go ahead and give you the thumbs up with the VIN and everything, to where you can have that chassis built as a vehicle, and it works. And I would love to see somebody take one of those $18,000 brand new chassis and then drop a Lightning system in it, maybe add some more batteries to where you're pushing about a 320-mile
Well,
range on that car, and see how it would really do in the market, because
That's
that
really
would be a
interesting.
fantastic vehicle to build.
That's really interesting that you bring that up, because I got in the next year or two on my channel that I'm going to build is I'm going to electrify something. I have a 78 Ford 3/4 ton sitting here that's just a cream puff that got wrecked. And I've been following and thinking about signing up with Edison. I don't know if you guys know him up in Canada,
Yep.
doing their generator system. Honestly, I love the Lightning. I wish we had transitioned like the Rev's going to do. I'm sorry, the Ram Charger's going to do, to get people
Yes.
into this a little more, so they get the feel for electric power and get addicted to that power, and then phase out the V6 engine when the battery tech is where we can charge in 10 minutes. Because really, and I know, Chris, you
Yep.
guys have had this conversation 15 times. I've driven 42,000 miles in my truck, like you, Jesse, all across the nation. It's not the range, it's the
No.
charge time and
It's
the
the charge
chargers that
time.
work. So I'm hoping this trip that I'm taking, and hopefully I get an adapter, or this trip I'm taking in next week, it changes my range anxiety. I should say charger anxiety, away
Yeah.
from is it going to work, to, because 45 minutes to charge. This is a 20-hour drive. Going will take me 30, and coming back is 34. To be loaded. That's what kills it. Everybody that I talk to, all of my friends, we have refineries here that they're just redneck. They're not going to change, but that really say, I don't want one of those. I'm not waiting 45 minutes at a charger. I'm just not. And okay,
Yeah.
I choose to because I love the truck that much, and I'm really trying to help promote. That's the reason I started my channel. I've been doing this stuff with guys for 30 years, and I've never had a YouTube channel. I'm not a big YouTuber. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to show what I'm doing today, even with you guys. But I really just trying to promote that it's not magic. The battery electric vehicles are really pretty simple. Yes, you have to have some software to be able to work on them. Like I have FDRS from Ford, and I'm able to go in and diagnose and fix whatever we have going on. But I'm trying to promote that, and it's just a difficult sell with that charge time.
How does that work with the
Yeah.
Tesla, Winston, where, you know, they have FDRS for the Ford, and you have the OBD scanners and tools and things that exist. When it comes to the Tesla, how do you get into the software side and make sure everything's updated and look at what's going on with your error codes? Like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, so Tesla's really cool, actually. It has a service mode. So service mode, you hold down, it's under software, and you type in the keyword is service, and then it puts this red line around the screen, and you can do a lot of stuff in there. You can see all the alerts pertaining to each module. You can even see down to each parking sensor, which one has an error. You can diagnose anything in there. And you can also do software reinstalls. So if you reinstall or like put a new headlight in or something like that, you're going to have a software mismatch because the headlight also has its own software and the car is running its own software, and there's going to be a version mismatch. So then you have to do a software install. So you can do so much in that. I've never had to use what Tesla's higher level, it's called Toolbox or Toolbox 3. Some people refer to it as Garage. I don't know if they're the same thing, but that's like where you actually plug in your computer to it, and you can run different things on it. And then there's also service mode plus. So there's 3 levels where it goes. First one is just service mode. Everyone has that. Every car has it. And then there's service mode plus, where you can do configuration changes for different things. And then you have Toolbox 3. So Toolbox 3, you have to pay. I think you can rent it for like a month, and it'd be like $200, or you can pay yearly on it. I don't remember how much it is, but that's for, you know, if you own a body shop or something like that, you'd be wanting to pay for Toolbox 3.
And Ford's
and
just like that. And we have the same stuff. I mean, you can start out with your basic scanner that you can get for $30 or Bluetooth. And then we step up to ForeScan, which is like that other one that you can do your configuration. And then you can step up on another level to the FDRS, and it's a couple $100 a month or $50 for 2 days to do the same thing. They're paralleling each other there. It's just cool that it's built into the Tesla. You don't have to have anything else for that basic package.
It's been extremely helpful. Like I was saying, the PTC heater failed on our all-wheel drive long range, and PTC failure on a 2018 is super common, especially if you live in colder climates where it's being used a lot. So if you ever buy a 2018 or know someone with a 2018, just be like, hey, just heads up, that's gonna fail. So yeah, that failed. I was able to go in service mode. And well, it was in the parking lot of a grocery store. It was on its 12-volt battery because the contactors were open and wasn't shut because there was an isolation fault. And I was able to see it said BMS isolation, circuits open, and it was like
awesome.
I knew, you know, it was PTC faulted, was an error code I got a month prior, and it stores them, which is cool. So you can see those. I don't know how far back it goes, but you're able to see, you know, it's easy to pinpoint what your issue is. And another cool thing is actually in the Tesla app, occasionally, let me see if I can pull mine up here real quick. But like right now, one of our Model 3s has a bad charge port door, to the point where just the little LED doesn't work, because I ripped the connector and I ripped the LED with it. So that happened. But if I go to, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but there's alerts in my Tesla app. It might be backwards. And you can see charging. It says charge port door may not open when pressed. Use another method. So they work together in a sense. And then Tesla can also diagnose it over the air, which is very, very cool.
They do such a good job with that. The closest I've ever come is like what you were saying, Martin, the OBD2 scanner tool that goes to my phone with Bluetooth. And I actually had a really early on battery module failure, and it put me into this limp mode where you usually had to tow it. They've since done an update to at least give you enough power to get to your dealer. And I plugged in my OBD2 that I have for my, you know, other cars, my gas cars, and it had a profile for the Lightning, and I was able to reset the fault, and it gave me back full power enough to, I can't change settings with a cell phone. It's where you have to have the laptop and a more advanced tool, but I could see all the errors and then I could reset them. That gave me full power back as long as I kept the truck on. If I turned the truck off, when it rebooted, it came up with all the crazy chimes and errors
the
again.
BMS recap, rescanned itself kind of. So did you get a new battery under warranty?
Yeah, I did. So the battery module, so I had enough power to drive it to Ford, and they dropped the battery pack. It's really well engineered, where there's 9 modules in it.
Yep.
It's the same amount of modules as the extended range, only my modules are smaller. That's the only
That's
difference.
correct.
And they pulled out one. They had like a adhesive heat transfer paste that they had to change out. They changed the module out. They sent it back to engineering. Mine was the first truck off my dealer lot. It was also the first one back in to get torn apart. So they worked closely with the Ford engineers. Ford was great. They gave me extended my bumper to bumper warranty. They gave me an option: free maintenance for a certain period, or extend the bumper to bumper with the warranty. I'm like, well, free maintenance, what the heck am I going to do with that? You're going to rotate my tires. And so I took the extended. It went from 3 years 32 or 36. I mean, it went to 6 years and 70 or something. So
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and then the battery is still
75. It's a 75 for the
75.
extended.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that was cool. I'm like, I'll take that every day. And because the last thing that I want is to have to pay full price after 3 years for any, who knows, right? Like that main screen goes out, or something
See, none
goes
of that
crazy.
stuff bothers me, Chris. I have no warranty at all on my truck. I'm out in the air. So if a module goes out, I'm on my own. But I know how to. I've already had the battery out of the 23. I know how to. We framed that
That's
truck,
awesome.
so new chassis. You can get it out in an hour and a half if you have a lift. It's super easy to get a battery out.
See, because
that's my problem. I don't have a lift.
you and Winston have talent. You see, I just
yes.
That's why I like to meet. That's my favorite part of doing the podcast, is meeting all these actual talented people, so that I know, like, when something, okay, because I'm not going to change that. So let me ask you this real quick, and we'll have to wrap up here. It's coming up on the hour, and I want to kind of get you guys to talk about what's next in your channels. But just real quickly, when it comes to the Lightning, like if somebody tried to put an extended range battery into a standard range truck, is that even possible? Like, could you just swap that?
It will fit. It physically will fit, because the modules and battery size are no different. The problem is the architecture, all the BMS, all those modules are different. It would cost you way more than it's worth than just to go trade it off. Now, will I not try that someday? Probably. When it's 5 to 10 years out there and I can pick up a standard range, because nobody wants them now, because it's like 10 years from now, we're going to have 700-mile range and 10-minute charge, right? So nobody wants a 200-mile, 45-minute charge. I'll probably try that at some point, because parts will get cheap on these older ones. But for now, no, it's not justifiable to do, to be able to do that.
Because all the modules, and because of all the other parts that cooperate with it.
And it's not just the battery. You think about your truck. What do you charge at a standard range home? I can charge at 80 amps. Yours is what, 48?
48.
So all those modules are different.
Interestingly, all the 24s, by the way, are dropping to 48 amps.
That
I saw
kills
that with
me.
the flash. Yeah,
I wouldn't buy one now because of that.
24,
because
that's
I use
it?
that every day.
Yeah, it's 48. So the 24 model year is 48 amps for the extended range. Yeah, but previous 23 and 22 both went to 80 amp home charging with AC, and now
like
they're
Model S.
Yeah, now
back in the day.
You're right. Your Model S used to do that. Used to go to 80, and like Lucid does it, and a couple others. But
you know why they did that? I mean, they're getting data from these trucks showing that 90% of the people out there don't need that. But like for me, I come home at midnight at 5% battery, and I got to go to work at 7 o'clock next morning. I want it ready to go.
Yeah. Well, and Fleet can still get it, by the way. Fleet can still option for it, so it is available through Fleet. But for the retail customers, it's not a thing anymore.
Which means you can change a module and fix it.
Yeah. So let's because we are coming up on time, and it's just, man, we could talk about this stuff forever, but I want to kind of talk about like, Winston, what's next for you? Talk about your channel and kind of where people can find you.
So yeah, for me, honestly, I haven't posted on my YouTube channel in a while, just with time constraints and stuff like that. And then also, when you want to post something, you got to have a project. So I've been looking around lately, just looking at the market. What I want to try to do someday is find a Model S, an old one, like a 2013, and take the battery out and sell the modules. You could probably get, a good, not when I say good condition, I'm talking like light front end damage, but enough to total it out. And you just sell those modules. I'm just kind of curious. So I've been looking around at that. But I've been just posting on Twitter a lot, talking a lot about the just repairability and stuff like that. And then when things do break, it's nice to be able to make videos and show people what to do. So I'm on Twitter a lot. Tesla_Winston is my name. And so I post a lot of auction cars. I show people what to look for. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that looks easy," but I'm like, "Yeah, I wouldn't do it if I were you," because it's a bigger risk. And people are always like, "Wow, you can get," back in the day, because last year or so, it was like an $18,000 for a 2018 Model 3 long range with full self driving. It was a great deal because that car would be what, 30 grand,
Mhm.
50,000 miles. And now you go to Hertz and they're like, "Hey, here's a standard range plus 2021 for 16." I don't know how much. Is your Model 3 that you just bought, Martin, a standard range plus, or is it a long
No,
range?
it's an extended range. It's a long range all wheel drive. So
Ooh,
they
Nice.
had that exact car, a standard
Wow.
range 2-wheel drive for 14.5 at Hertz with 90,000 on it.
Wow.
how many miles does the dual motor you got have?
90.
Okay,
And
nice.
it's a
Yeah, and those,
22.
yeah, the 22. Okay, I will say the 22 long range packs are the best battery packs out there, I'd
Yep.
say.
We were going to buy an
Yep.
18, and because it didn't have CCS charging and some of the early things like the heater you were talking about, I
Mhm.
just sprung for the 22. They sold it to us for the same price. I couldn't believe it.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Yep.
are those just the cars that were used by Uber drivers as part of that program? Is that why they have 90,000
You know,
miles for the most part?
I'm scared to go into service mode and do a battery health because that thing was supercharged its whole life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's never seen an AC charger, that's for sure.
Probably not. It has
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And so, what about you, Martin? I know we've talked before. You've got a project
Sure.
coming up. Where can they find you on YouTube and
Yeah, I'm on
social media?
on YouTube. I'm not really on Twitter or X anymore. I pretty much stay focused on Facebook for helping folks because I like to do this. I really don't want to make any money from any of this. I make the money from my build and my sell. But Martin Rebuilds on as you see my sign and my stuff. That's my YouTube channel. I'm about halfway through the build on my 23 on YouTube right now. The truck is actually done for the most part, but it doubles your time when you're filming and when you're trying to edit. It adds so much time. So
Yeah.
I just enjoy building and having to film. It just takes so much time.
Me too, yeah.
We have a 22 coming up. It's an antimatter blue, 17,000 mile long range Lightning that we're planning to do for a guy back east. He wrecked it. Insurance company's messing with him. It's a long story, and I'm going to get into that on the channel. I don't want to give it all away. But he didn't have insurance as bottom line for this truck, so he's kind of paying for it out of pocket. And yes, parts are super expensive from Ford. When I heard Winston talking about Tesla prices, we're double that. Everything on Ford's twice as high, but you're paying for that Ford quality. I mean, Ford's always known to be the top quality vehicle, but so we'll be building that. Where I'm headed out on the 27th of March, and we're going to pick it up driving 4.5 days straight from Kansas to North Carolina and back. So it'll be back. And we're going to film the whole trip and hopefully get an adapter where we can film the trip out. Because I don't think I know Kyle and Tom have been cross country in them a little bit recently, but nobody's done it towing, trying to tow with Tesla superchargers. So I think I'm going to be one of the first to go across country with a trailer, deal with all those stops with a trailer, and then pull them heavy on the way back 1,200 miles. So this ought to be a good fun event for us, and we're going to film the whole thing and try to put that out there as well.
Yeah, I'm working on getting an adapter. I should know something hopefully by the end of the week, but we will get you an adapter one way or the other.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris. It'll make my life a lot easier going across. I don't have to deal with just CCS, which I can do. I've done many times, but it'll just make it easier.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great story. And I think I love it. Just kind of highlights that partnership of,
Sure.
Ford and Tesla and the benefit of the supercharger and just what that opens up, I think, for everybody. I think it's fantastic. So,
For sure.
yeah, I mean, I've been watching Winston, for a couple of years now, and I've discovered Martin, and I was like, this is great. These are like the same people. It's just different generations, different parts of the country, different brands.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's that same spirit. And I always
for sure.
appreciate, that gift. You guys both have that mechanical gift, man. That is just something special. So hopefully our audience learns something, and we'll definitely spread the word. When you guys have projects, let us know. We'll repost them. Obviously, I'm already on X, and I see what you do, Winston and Martin. We'll repost stuff from YouTube on X, and kind of get that circulating around as well, and just have fun with it. I love it. We'll kind of wrap this up, and then we can chat off the air a little bit, and we'll get this episode up tomorrow and get folks getting to learn about both your channels and just kind of see, I think, what a lot of people don't realize and know about the ability to do this. I think they take for granted that you can do this with an old Mopar or something like that, right? But I don't think people realize that there are people doing this with electric. So thank you guys for sharing the story.
You bet. Thank you,
Thank you
Chris.
for having us.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for this episode of Turn Down for What. We will see you next week with more fun in the electric vehicle space. Remember, drive what you love. Ford, Tesla, Doesn't matter. Enjoy it, have fun with it, and make it your own. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Turn Down for What. Tune in next week for more EV news and updates. See you then.